What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today, we are talking about the unsung heroes. The glue. The guys who do the dirty work so the stars can shine. You know the type. The players who intercept a pass, start the counterattack, and by the time the ball hits the net, the cameras are focused on the striker, ignoring the man who made it possible. Being a defensive midfielder is a thankless job. Do it well, and nobody notices you. Make one mistake, and the whole world blames you. But for every Claude Makelele or Sergio Busquets, guys who got the flowers they deserved, there are legends who flew under the radar. They dominated Europe, won trophies, and changed games. Yet for some reason, they never seemed to make those top 10 all-time lists. Well, today we are fixing that. I've ranked the top 10 most underrated defensive midfielders in football history. These are the destroyers, the engines, and the silent generals. Let's get into it. At number 10, we have the engine behind Jose Mourinho's legendary treble-winning Inter Milan side, Esteban Cambiasso. When you think of that Inter team, you think of Milito, Eto'o, Sneijder, or Zanetti. But Cambiasso? He was the metronome, the guy who kept the tempo. He wasn't the biggest, he wasn't the fastest, but his footballing IQ was off the charts. People forget that in that 2010 Champions League final against Bayern Munich, he put in a shift that was absolutely massive. He box-to-boxed for 90 minutes, breaking up play and keeping possession when his team was under the cosh. He scored 4 goals in the Champions League that year, too, including a beauty against Chelsea. He won 5 Scudettos with Inter. He was part of the impossible team at Porto under Mourinho before that. He was an absolute beast for Argentina for over a decade. But because he was quiet, because he didn't seek the limelight, he rarely gets the credit he deserves. He was a complete midfielder, tactical, technical, and tough. Coming in at number 9 is the man who held down the midfield at Manchester City during their transition from a good team to a European superpower, Fernandinho. For years, Pep Guardiola called him the best in his position. And Pep knows a thing or two about midfielders. Fernandinho joined City as a winger-turned midfielder and became the most important player on the pitch. Imagine being the replacement for Yaya Touré, a club legend, and not only matching him, but arguably surpassing him in terms of tactical importance. Fernandinho could do it all. He had the pace to cover for Kyle Walker's bombing runs, the strength to bully Premier League attackers, and the vision to launch attacks from deep. He was the ultimate insurance policy. When City's defense was exposed, Fernandinho was there. He was their captain, their leader, and for a long time, the only reason their sometimes shaky defense didn't fall apart. He only has 1 Premier League Golden Glove? Wait, no, he wasn't a keeper. But he played like a goalkeeper in front of the back 4. A stone-cold warrior. Number 8. The man who replaced Roy Keane. Think about that pressure for a second. When Michael Carrick arrived at Manchester United, fans were screaming for a monster. They wanted a destroyer. Instead, Sir Alex gave them a conductor. Carrick is the definition of you don't know what you've got till it's gone. For over a decade, he was the brains behind United's midfield. He didn't slide in for 2-footed tackles. He didn't scream and shout. He just stood there, read the game, intercepted the pass, and pinged a ball 40 yards to Cristiano Ronaldo's feet. He won 5 Premier League titles and a Champions League. He played in 3 Europa League finals. He was arguably the most consistent English player of his generation. Yet, whenever people talked about United's legends, they talked about Rooney, Giggs, and Scholes. Carrick was the quiet genius. Paul Scholes himself said Carrick was United's most important player in his later years. If that isn't validation, I don't know what is. At number 7, we have a player whose career was cruelly cut short by injuries, but whose peak was untouchable, Owen Hargreaves. I know what you're thinking. He played for England and Bayern Munich. How is he underrated? Because people remember the injuries, not the footballer. If you go back and watch the 2006 World Cup, Hargreaves was arguably England's best player. He was playing out of his skin at right midfield just to get in the team, covering every blade of grass. But his natural position? A box-to-box destroyer. At Bayern Munich, he was absolute class. He won the double there. He was fast, technical, and had incredible stamina. He could mark Kaká out of a game. Ask AC Milan about the 2007 Champions League semi-final, and then go score a header in the final. When he was fit, he was the complete package. He should have been the linchpin of England for a decade. Instead, his body betrayed him. a forgotten genius of the midfield. Number 6 takes us back to the Arsenal Invincibles. You cannot talk about that season without talking about Gilberto Silva. The problem with Gilberto was that he played alongside Patrick Vieira. Vieira was the captain, the charismatic leader, the engine. So people assumed Gilberto was just the water carrier. They were wrong. Arsenal's invincible season actually broke down when Vieira got injured. And guess who stepped up? Gilberto. He captained the side, and they didn't lose a step. He was the invisible wall. He allowed players like Robert Pires and Freddie Ljungberg to fly forward because he was always there to mop up the mess. He was positionally perfect. And let's not forget, he scored the goal that won the World Cup for Brazil in 2002, the opening goal of the tournament. He was a winner, pure and simple. Arsene Wenger called him one of the greatest signings he ever made, but he's rarely mentioned in the same breath as the other Arsenal legends. Halfway through the list, at number 5, is the man they call El Jefecito, the little boss. Javier Mascherano. Liverpool fans will tell you, at his peak, Mascherano was the best defensive midfielder on the planet. He was an absolute animal in the 2007 and 2008 Champions League runs. He was the reason Steven Gerrard could push forward and do his Hollywood things. Mascherano just didn't let you past. If you got the ball, he was on you instantly. Low center of gravity, endless energy, pure aggression. But he also sacrificed his career for the team. He goes to Barcelona, a club that loves possession, and he has to play out of position at center back because Puyol and Pique are injured, and they need a warrior back there. He becomes arguably the best defender in La Liga for 2 seasons just to help the team. He was the heart of Argentina for a decade too. He's a 3-time Champions League winner, but because he was always the servant to bigger stars like Gerrard, Messi, and Xavi, his individual brilliance gets overlooked. Number 4 is a player who makes football look like an art form. Fernando Redondo. When you think of defensive midfielders, you think of destroyers. Redondo was a conductor. He was 6'2", elegant, gliding across the pitch, barely making a tackle because he didn't need to. He just took the ball away from you with a gentle nudge. Why is he underrated? Because he only won the Ballon d'Or runner-up once, and he walked away from football while he was still relatively young due to a contractual dispute and injuries. But peak Redondo? Unstoppable. Look at his performance in the 2000 Champions League semi-final against Manchester United. That backheel assist to Raul on the touchline? That shouldn't be legal for a defensive midfielder. He destroyed Manchester United over 2 legs and then won the man of the match in the final against Valencia. He was the architect of Real Madrid's return to the top, and yet, so many modern fans have never seen him play. Absolute class. At number 3, we have the crazy one. The heart and soul of AC Milan's golden era, Gennaro Gattuso. Now, some might say Gattuso is famous. He's a cult hero, but is he respected as a footballer as much as he should be? People love him for his insanity, for grabbing Joe Jordan by the throat, for screaming at the referee. But often, people overlook that he was actually a really good defensive midfielder. He was the perfect foil to Andrea Pirlo. While Pirlo painted the pictures, Gattuso made sure no one kicked the easel over. He was the terrier. He would run through a brick wall for the shirt. In the 2006 World Cup final, he shackled Zidane. In the 2007 Champions League final, he completely shut down Steven Gerrard and a world-class Liverpool midfield. He wasn't just a hard man. He was intelligent. He knew when to foul. He knew when to press. And he was a born leader. He was the steel that allowed Milan's diamonds to sparkle. We are down to the top 2. Number 2 is the Bison, Michael Essien. I'm telling you right now, at his absolute peak between 2006 and 2009, Michael Essien was the most complete midfielder in the Premier League. He had the engine of Steven Gerrard, the strength of Patrick Vieira, and the tactical brain of Claude Makelele. Chelsea under Mourinho relied on Essien for everything. He could play right back, center mid, defensive mid, center back. It didn't matter. He was a cheat code. He scored one of the greatest goals in Champions League history against Arsenal, a 35-yard missile into the top corner. If it wasn't for his knees betraying him, he would be remembered as an all-time great. We saw glimpses of it at Real Madrid when he went on loan, and even he helped them win La Liga. But his time at the very top was cut too short. A powerful, dynamic force of nature who is often forgotten when people list the legends of the Abramovich era. Taking the number 1 spot, the Dutch master, Frank Rijkaard. Now, I know what some of you are saying. He's a legend. He won the Euros. But trust me, in the history of defensive midfielders, he is criminally underdiscussed compared to guys like Lothar Matthäus or Patrick Vieira. Rijkaard was the prototype for the modern, ball-playing defender. He was part of arguably the greatest club side ever, AC Milan under Essien, and then the legendary Ajax team of '95. He was the definition of elegance. He didn't just break up play, he started attacks. He was physically imposing, 6'3", but he moved with the grace of a dancer. Remember the 1990 World Cup? He was the rock of that Dutch side. Remember the final against West Germany? Rijkaard had a rivalry with Rudi Völler that was legendary, but he always kept his head when it mattered. He could do everything: tackle, pass, dribble, score. He was a 3-time Champions League winner and a European champion. If you look at the top defensive midfielders today, Rodri, Rice, Partey, they are all trying to be what Frank Rijkaard was back in the late 80s and early 90s. The most complete, underrated technician in history. So there you have it, the 10 most underrated defensive midfielders in football history. From the elegance of Redondo and Rijkaard to the brutality of Gattuso and Essien. These guys didn't always get the headlines, but they won the trophies. And let's be honest, football doesn't work without them. But I know this list is controversial. That's kind of the point. Who do we get wrong? Who do we miss? Is there someone from the 70s or 80s who deserves to be here? Let me know in the comments below. Let's have a debate. If you enjoyed the video, smash that like button, subscribe to Football Protocol, and hit the bell so you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.